All right, friends, welcome to Authority. This is E. This is my friend Jayce Carter, who is phenomenal, and she is here to talk smutty books and writing productivity with us today. I'm so glad you're here, Jayce. I love hanging out with you every chance we have the opportunity to hang out, and we've been friends for a long time, and I can't believe that I didn't think to ask you to come on my podcast sooner. That's bad.
I thought you might have been trying to hide me. I thought you were
Yeah,
like,
under a
no, let's
rock.
not unleash her onto my audience.
No, no, the world
Also, you
needs
wanted to
that.
pretend to be innocent. So you're like, I
No.
don't know about any of that.
Has anybody met me for longer than 30 seconds who thinks I'm innocent? My God, no, that's a terrible mistake. That is not the case. Not even a little. And if my mouth doesn't say it, the rest of my face does.
We can just tell. We're like, no, no, they know exactly what we're saying.
Mm-hmm. I do. We're not going to talk about my Google search history. So, you write smutty books. I think the series you're best known for is probably the Alphas series, though some of your other ones are really well known at this point too, I think.
Yeah, I think my Alpha series was my first, and so that's been out the longest, so it's usually the best known,
Mm-hmm.
Omegaverse.
Yep, definitely. So, with writing and you also like you were writing so many books so fast. Like you were doing the whole rapid release thing almost before rapid release was a trend, I think. Like the number of
Yeah.
books you were writing and putting out was monstrous.
Yeah, often it was 11 or 12 a year,
Mhm.
in those first couple years that I was writing. So I was definitely writing very quickly.
Mhm. Which is both impressive and my God, are you okay?
I've learned in the last year or two to kind of slow down a little bit. I
Mhm.
enjoy writing that quickly, but I think that there's something to be said about being able to slow down, take some breaks, and not feel quite so pressured to
Mhm.
keep that up. Rapid releasing usually works well when you do 3 or 4 books in a series and then you have a short break. And I
Yep.
didn't take any of those breaks.
Mhm.
So it definitely leads to some burnout.
Yeah. So I also know that your writing schedule's really structured. You are a full-time author. This is what you do. So I kind of wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about how to do that without hitting too much burnout because burnout is kind of inevitable. You're going to hit times where you're just like I cannot right now. That's just human life.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I always say, first of all, of course, people are going to need different things, and
Mhm.
the routine and schedule that works for me is not going to work for everyone. And my goals aren't going to be the same as everyone else's. So I always like to preface that so I'm not like, this is the way. You have to do it this way.
Mhm.
Um, for me, I find I really like routine. I like schedule. So I
Yep.
have a tendency to get up early and start my day very early. Part of that is I have 2 teenagers and they are very loud and disruptive. And so
That's
in the
fair.
morning, yeah, they are not around yet. Everyone's asleep, the house is quiet, and I get things done early.
Mhm.
I tend to find that setting goals helps a lot. And I say that because one of the things that I think leads to burnout is feeling like you've never done enough. So by
Mhm.
having goals, you're able to say, okay, I wrote this amount, I'm done for today.
That's fair. I'm sorry for the sound in the background. My cat has discovered there's a treat in this box over here that she did not get earlier. I need to liberate this.
That's an
Come here.
emergency. I understand. I do that when I find treats.
Yes, Monster is convinced that every opportunity to stuff treats in her face hole is an emergency, and she is going to
Yeah,
be as obnoxious as possible this entire time. So,
that's
those of you
that's all
listening,
I'm doing here.
I have a gray tabby named Monster, and she is a problem. And she's likely to continue to be a problem today because she's in a mood, I guess. So that is just how things are going to be right now.
That
Hopefully she
is
doesn't
life.
spend Hopefully she doesn't spend too much time digging around in the box. I regret leaving that there for her earlier. um, Regrets.
Oh man, yeah.
Yep, but
Yes.
life is imperfect and messy. Case in point, this podcast.
That's what makes it fun.
Yes, facts. So you get up really early. You tend to do your writing before everybody else is up. About how many words a day do you do approximately?
It
Because I know it
really
varies.
depends. Yeah, I really like trying to hit about 5,000. That's
Hmm.
kind of my happy place. There are definitely times where if I'm editing, if I'm doing other things, I always do at least 750 words because I do morning pages. And so
Hmm.
it may not even be that those words are on my actual work that I need to do, but I at least sit down and do some form of writing every single day. And I find that that makes it easier for
Hmm.
me to sit down and actually work because my body, I always say it's kind of like going to the gym. It's really hard to go to the gym at first, but once it becomes routine, you don't really think about it. It's just, okay, now I'm putting my shoes on. Now I'm getting my
Yep.
water bottle.
Yep.
I'm going to the gym. And so once I found I created that space where my brain goes, oh, so every day we sit down and we work, it was a lot easier to do that and not feel that dread at the blank page at what
Yeah.
am I working on. It was just the next scene. I broke it down so
Yep.
it's not I have to write another 70,000 words. It's I've got one scene. I just
Hmm.
focus on that one thing.
That makes sense. I so you're counting words that aren't on projects. Would you count, say, fan fiction? So I'm just gonna out myself my AO3 tags here. But like, does fan fiction count as that writing towards something that day, even if it's not necessarily on the project you were trying, or like I'm assuming emails aren't included, so we're talking creative writing. But
Yeah, I do creative writing. I have to out myself too. I use the same pen name for my fan fiction as I
womp
did for
womp.
my regular fiction. So everybody is now aware of that.
Ah,
Um, yeah. So I think
podcasters search
absolutely.
Jayce Carter on AO3. Shh.
Oh God, don't man. So much, so much Fallout fan fiction. You can see my Thane
Mm-hmm.
figure back here. So much. Yeah, no.
Mine's
Um,
supernatural, so I'm a Destiel nerd.
Oh, yeah, you see, it's all there. I think I had 1.5 million words up there. Yeah, I have not updated it in a long time, unfortunately. I get comments sometimes and I feel so bad. I'm like, no, I haven't gotten back to it. I think any form of creative writing is going to help you. I think that
Hmm.
if you're trying to get a specific project done, it's a good idea to set a goal for that project. But any sort of writing is going to help you better your skills overall. Like it's going to help you, it's going to put you in the right mindset. So I think it absolutely counts. But if you know you have a deadline, you do
Yeah.
sometimes have to actually write the thing instead of, the fan fiction porn. Occasionally you have to, make those hard decisions.
The hard decisions to not write porn. You know, your day job is writing porn, so I can't even say the hard
I
decision to
said
not write
fan
porn today.
fiction porn.
You were very specific about the kind of porn we're talking here. Um,
I was. Other porn, fine.
which other porn? I'm I have a friend. I'm gonna leave him nameless for the purposes of obscuring his identity, but if he ever listens to this, he'll know
Protecting him.
exactly. Yes, I'm protecting him from himself. My friend said that he has recently discovered that there is a whole genre of teddy bear smut, and we're talking like the movie Ted. We're not talking like teddy bears that become human. We're talking like actually stuffed animals. I'm
You know,
you are my knowledge resource of all things. What the hell is this, and why did anybody think that was hot? So I'm now calling you out. What the hell?
sometimes you just want somebody a little soft and furry. I mean, we don't kink shame. Sometimes we're a little kink surprised,
I kink ask
but
why a lot. I kink ask why a lot.
exactly. I'm a little kink startled, baby, but no shame here.
Yeah, but that
Oh
is
my,
right. Like, but that is something you and I have talked about. How if it exists and there's probably smut of it, and there's a fan base somewhere for that thing.
absolutely. I think one of my favorite things is when I'm watching a new show, I go to AO3 and look up what are the most popular relationship in the show. And it's always something terrible. But every time I'm like, all right, let me see, who are they shipping in this? And I'm like, I wish I hadn't have looked that up, honestly. It does not matter what it is. It's somebody is gonna be like, I'm into that. And
Yeah.
it gives me a job, so I can't really say much about it. But yeah, occasionally I'm like, oh Lord, we have strayed very far with this.
Yeah.
And then I jump in and I write the thing. And that's the worst thing is I'm like, okay, I'm not into that. Or am I?
Well, time to find out. And that is why writing smut
Exactly.
teaches you so much about yourself. You learn more about yourself than you ever wanted to know.
Yeah, it really does. But then you have the problem of everything you write. Occasionally, people will be like, so that's what you're into. I'm like, no, it's just a job. I swear.
But is
They
it?
don't believe it. Right?
They
Nobody
shouldn't.
believes it after
They
they
shouldn't.
talk to me. They're like,
Yeah.
sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Goes and reads
Hmm.
AO3 tags. Like, like never mind. Never mind. No, it
Exactly. Yeah, oh God, some of my AO3 now I'm just thinking back to that and going, good Lord. I'm a very gullible person. And when I have readers that are like, we would like you to write this, I absolutely do it. And now there are things up there. If you've played Fallout New Vegas, I have some things in there tagged with Fisto. It is not okay.
amazing.
Oh.
That is I love that so much. One of my favorite things about the romance and erotica authors is you guys are so liberated. Like a lot of the times, no, legitimately though. Like I'm not saying that as a subtle dig. I mean it legitimately. Like the romance and erotica community tends to be so open and so honest and so just gleeful about a lot of this stuff that everyone else is like, "Oh my god, I can't admit that I like this thing." And we're like, "No, just out on Front Street, here's my AO3." Like and if you don't know what AO3 is, by the way, listeners, AO3 stands for Archive of Our Own, and it is a giant fan fiction website. And it is dedicated mostly to smut, if I'm honest.
Oh, yeah.
It's mostly
Yeah.
smut, but it isn't exclusively smut, but it's mostly
Yeah.
smut,
It's got the best tagging system I've ever seen. No matter
right?
what you're into, you can find it with those
It's
tags. I
impressive, honestly.
absolutely adore it. And you can exclude them too. So if you're like, I do not want to venture into teddy bear erotica, you can exclude that
Like,
or you
never
can
you.
find it,
Or that.
right? No, I would never exclude anything.
We have learning things today about ourselves. That's what this podcast is
And
about. It's
everyone
about
else,
learning and sharing.
right? Everyone else
Learning
is
and
learning
sharing.
these things about us at the same time.
We're all learning together. But but
It's
no, like
educational.
it is. It really is. But the fact that like romance and erotica gets a bad rap a lot of the time. People think it's not, it's not serious. It shouldn't be taken seriously. It's not real writing. And I hate that because it's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. And anybody listening, if that's your opinion, I'm sorry, you're wrong. And you know what? I'm not sorry. You're just wrong. So, just it is because there's so much delight to be found there. And not only that, there's romance in and of itself. There's so much humanity in the idea of characters coming together and dealing with their challenges and facing things and dealing with personal hang-ups and all kinds of stuff. Like erotica authors oftentimes write some of the most vivid body positivity stuff. People being at their most vulnerable.
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the things that I love about it that really got me into it was the idea that it is so character driven.
Mm-hmm.
The entire thing is not just about, a lot of times people are like, oh, it's just about, two people falling in love, but it's about them confronting all of those dark
Mm-hmm.
places within themselves that gets them to the point where they can accept somebody else
Mm-hmm.
and how they figure out how to work together and how to choose that kind of future for themselves.
Yep.
And I absolutely love it for that reason, it just is so character dependent, and that's my
Mhm.
favorite kind of writing. I think world building is great. I enjoy a lot of that, but it's the characters that always
Yeah.
bring me back, and I find romance does such a great job of really looking at that. And furthermore, for me personally, telling the stories in a female positive way. And I
Mhm.
found a lot of times reading before, I didn't always get that in a lot of other genres. It was a lot
Yep.
harder to find. But I found in romance, you really have often, female characters who are telling female stories. And that's
Mhm.
something that I just didn't get to see a lot of, and especially showing sex in a positive
Yep.
female way where sex is not something done to women.
Right.
It is something that they actively want, something they enjoy, and that their comfort and pleasure is important. And I
Yep.
think that's one of my favorite things are comments I get about where women tell me, like, I was uncomfortable with this specific thing that I liked or wanted or didn't
Mhm.
realize, but in reading your work, it made me go, it's okay. Like, it's okay to like that. It's okay to want this.
Yep.
And I just think that's so important.
The idea of those things leading, like, as much as we were joking about self-discovery earlier, it really does genuinely lead to self-discovery and identity and so on. Like, there's so much wrapped up in sex, and it's considered so taboo a lot of the time. And
Absolutely.
trying to strip away some of those taboos and just letting people be people, and intimacy is
Yeah,
a
and
part of that.
explore. Yeah, and
Hmm.
explore things in a safe way. The reality is that, you can't necessarily go out and do these things.
Right.
But that fiction gives you an ability, this kind of little bit of a window
Hmm.
into parts of what you like or don't like that you otherwise might not have had any access to. You wouldn't have been
Right.
able to experience or talk about or understand.
Hmm.
And I think, like you said, the community is absolutely fantastic. I'll always laugh about, whenever I go to author conferences, I adore meeting up with the other romance authors, especially the reverse harem romance
Yep.
authors, because they are absolutely so much fun. And I remember we were talking in a group and somebody said fancy peen, and all of a sudden this woman stops, comes around. I heard fancy peen. These are my people, and it was amazing. Like, you just completely accept it. I think I walked in and I got like a packet of penis shaped candies. Like, immediately
Amazing.
someone just, here you go. And I'm like, these are amazing people. I like this.
Yep. And it's nice to be in like, romance and erotica in general is a female-led genre. As like, there are definitely male writers who do it and do it brilliantly. There's a lot of gay male writers who do wonderful things. There's a lot of, like, trans people, like, but romance is largely a female-led genre, which I think is one of the reasons why it's so often kind of talked down on, because, sexism's a thing.
Yeah.
But it is one of the spaces where there's so much liberation and honesty and just joy there. Because one of the things I like about romances is the happily ever after. Because in real life, there's not a whole lot of happily ever after. There's maybe right now we can tolerate each other, and there's, like, don't get me wrong, I love my husband, 17 years, I'm happy with him, but it's still work.
Oh yeah.
Like, being in a relationship for that long is work. It's always going to be work. But the idea
Oh
of
yeah.
happily ever after is like a space where we can, like, just not have to worry about the forever. We can just be like, and they lived happily ever after. Ah,
And I think
it's
that's one of the things I love. And it's funny because a lot of people will say that is a downside to romance. They'll say, well, how can you enjoy it if you already know how it's going to end? But I always explain, in a lot of genres, we know that it's going to end positively. There aren't that many
mm-hmm.
where the hero completely fucks it up and he fails and he's
Yeah.
dead and everything goes to shit at the end. We
Hopefully,
know that
yeah.
it's right, like, that doesn't happen that often.
No, it doesn't.
Usually we know how, we know that they're going to succeed, and it's the journey to get there. It's how is it going to happen? And that's
Yep.
the same with romance. It's how are they going to get past this? How are they going to
Mm-hmm.
overcome all these things? And I love it because it takes away some of that anxiety. I'm the type of person where if there's a dog in a movie, I gotta look up and make sure that dog isn't
Yep.
gonna die.
Mhm.
So the whole thing, I'm gonna be terrified that this is gonna go badly.
Yep.
And romance for me lets me experience all of that wonderfully terrible trauma that it puts you through as you go
Yep.
through it when you're like, it's all lost, it's never gonna work out, knowing that in the end they're gonna get their shit together. It's gonna
Mhm.
be okay. They're going to succeed, even if I don't know how they're going to reach that point. And I think that that's something that's comforting a lot of times
Mhm.
because it also allows us to explore topics that you couldn't in real life. You've got those red flags where in real life you're like, for the love of God, run.
Yep.
Don't, like, this
Do
is
not.
bad.
Do not.
Yeah, this is bad. Don't do that. But in fiction, the author is able to say it's only going to go this far. They
Mhm.
don't have that uncertainty where you're like, person's going to end up being a serial killer. Well, and in
Yep.
some romance, they are.
But if they're a
But
serial killer, they're her serial killer or his serial killer. Their serial killer.
exactly. It's their masked murderer, and that's fine then. But you have that safety net that
Yeah.
we don't have in real life. It's the fantasy of people are imperfect, but we know it's never gonna cross this line. We know they're
Mhm.
gonna work it out. And I
Yep.
think that that's comforting to a lot of people.
The also it's kind of empowering in the sense of we see so many stories out there where people have fights and then break up forever and it's never resolved. And it kind of gives the idea that no, there can be hope in relationships even when things do feel like they're coming apart. They don't necessarily have to come apart forever, or you'll figure something out. So it also provides an avenue back in versus the more realistic books where they have fights and break up and never talk to each other again. Because so it offers a different angle and a different perspective on the possibility of reconciliation and managing your relationship. At least in my
Oh
opinion,
yeah, it
anyway.
gives you that closure, that feeling of, people can screw it up and they can make mistakes and they can come back together and end up stronger in the end because of
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah, and that journey of self-discovery, and also a lot of books that I've read in the romance genre, and I've read a lot of romance books. A large theme of it is the female protagonist usually finding herself and like really stepping
Yes.
into her own space and owning herself, her body after trauma, after a loss, after a breakup, after whatever it is that's happened. It usually starts. They tend to be really empowering narratives of reclamation of self.
Yes, that is one of my absolute favorite things to write. And a good majority of my stories have female characters who are recovering from trauma, from
Mm-hmm.
abuse, from, feelings of inadequacy and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And it's not about they get saved by a man that he just comes in and saves them and
Fixes
everything's
all their
fine.
problems.
Right? It's about them learning that they're strong on their own. It's about them
Mm-hmm.
learning how to be vulnerable with other people because they know that they are strong and they learn not that they become strong even, they learn that they already were. They
Yeah, they can
learn that
identify there.
yeah, that they have what it takes to achieve whatever it is that they're wanting. A big part of mine is reclamation of their body and their own
Mm-hmm.
sexuality after trauma,
Mm-hmm.
being able to, and again, not the, as they put it, the magic dick syndrome, where, it's like, oh, they're traumatized, but there's this magical man and his penis just, it's perfect, and now they're all better.
Yeah.
And I
No, your
hate
books are
that
not like that at
so
all.
much. Right? I've seen it where it's just like that is the gift to her, and suddenly she's all better. And I can't stand it.
I don't
And
think that
so,
those books are written by anybody who has experience with trauma themselves. Usually, those people have a Hollywood idea of what trauma looks like, not somebody who's actually
mhm.
experienced it.
Oh, exactly. It's just to add extra tension to it, they think. Like, oh, see how much she overcomes? All for, yeah. And
Yeah.
I absolutely love to see the idea that, she's able to reclaim and feel like she owns her own body, that
Mm-hmm.
she's able to find pleasure again
Yep.
and just take back that whole part of herself from whatever had happened in the past. And she's
Yep.
able to grow, and only through that can she accept her partner and things like
Yep.
that. It's not that they save her, it's that she learns that she's strong and able to overcome that. And that is not a linear process. That's one of the
No.
other things that I love to show is it's not I'm traumatized, I'm all better. No, there will be things that come up throughout the book
Mhm.
for, and throughout their lives that comes back to it. And you
Yep.
see that healing is never linear. It's never I'm not okay now I am and everything's perfect.
But you also show that in your interconnected series, like the Alphas series. A lot of the characters who were primary characters from previous books, a lot of they show up and come in and out of each other's lives. That's the nature of the series. And sometimes when they come back in, things are kind of a mess for them when they come back, and
Yeah, and
they
I
have to
I
like so it's not always perfect, and that healing is still going on, and things still aren't linear even after we leave the story. Like they do like fix whatever's a mess for them, but like it doesn't. It's not the idea of this achieving perfect sexual nirvana and staying there forever. It shows that it still goes on even after the camera goes away.
Absolutely. I think one of my favorite ones is I did a Halloween short story, and it was following then the characters from the first Alpha book.
Mm-hmm.
And it occurred after she had had a baby. And so it really looked at those sort of insecurities of being a
Mm-hmm.
mom, of are you still wanted? What is your place?
Yep.
How does this relationship function once that change is made? And I absolutely love being able to come back and see that you can have characters that absolutely love one another. That doesn't make everything perfect.
Mm-hmm.
They're still going to have things that come up that spark, insecurities that they have to work through, and that relationship is always changing. It's always,
Mm-hmm.
it's a living thing. It's not one and done. It's not,
Right.
you fix it and everything's perfect. And that's one of the reasons I think I love that novella so much, is because it just looked at something that, you got to see them come together, but then you still got to see struggles where they
Mm-hmm.
had to figure it out
Yep.
and go through it. And that's one reason that I rarely write, my first Alphas book, I think the first 3 chapters are just one long orgy.
Mm-hmm.
That's how the book starts.
It was a really it
And
opened with a bang. Ha ha! I'm not
it
sorry.
did, with a gangbang. Yes, it did.
Yeah. Perfect.
um, right. You're welcome.
Thank you
Um,
so much. Gonna get me
and I think like
demonetized. Not that I was monetized
that's
to
why I give
begin
it to
with.
you.
Thank you so much. I wasn't monetized to begin with, but now I'm extra demonetized.
You see, my porn can make money and it can take money away.
Mostly when I buy your books.
Indeed. I think there used to be this thing where it was always you had the relationship and then the romance story ends with them having sex.
Hmm.
That is,
That was the
that is
old
the
school.
end point. That was the old school. I love it so much more now. At the end of the day, often the sex is the easy part. That's the
Yep.
part that is somewhat mindless in a way. It's physical, that it I like the focus on they might have sex at page 1, but that does not mean that they are in a place to figure out the relationship.
Yep.
Everything that comes after that is what takes so much time
Hmm.
and effort to figure out. And I absolutely adore that romance has gone that way instead of it just being, you have your romance and then they screw at the very end. And
Yep.
that's it. I like it so much better having them have to take that time to figure out the hard stuff.
It's also very real because a lot of people, the physical stuff comes first and comes easy. Haha, comes. And it's the yeah. This episode, I'm now demonetizing myself extra.
I was gonna say it's you this time,
It
not
just
me.
keeps going down. What
I know.
happened?
We're
My
just
view
gonna
count,
keep
she
lowering
drops.
that bar.
Yeah, look, the bar is gonna end up on the ground in hell, and I'm still gonna limbo underneath that son of a bitch.
I know we're
So,
just gonna keep digging our way under.
but the idea that sex is so much easier than relationships is real, though. Like, so many people, the physical part of their relationship is the easy part. The rest of it is a mess.
Oh, right? I mean, that's the thing is I love seeing absolute disasters of people because we all are.
Mm-hmm.
We're all screwed up monumentally in so many ways. And I love seeing how those jagged edges can kind of fit together and help each other and how they choose to
Mm-hmm.
put one another first and how they learn that they have to do that.
Yep.
That it's not the fantasy. It's not, I saw him across the room and it was perfect. It's gonna, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
gonna take time and there are gonna be ups and downs. And at the end of
Right.
the day, it's always, at least in my books, it's about them choosing to have a future together. It doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
everything's perfect. It doesn't mean that they've even fixed everything, but it means at the end of the day, they're choosing to form a life together.
Yeah, and I think that that choice, that act of I'm choosing this is really empowering versus I saw them from across the room and fell in love and now it's forever, rather than like, no, that person's a freaking mess, but they're my mess.
Yes, exactly. And, the
They are
things
my
that,
circus. This is my monkeys.
oh God, that realization occasionally when you look over and you're like, I picked this. I continue to pick this 20 years later.
Yep. Yeah, my husband and I regularly have like he will just turn to me and like send me the world's dumbest meme and I'll be like, I decided this for myself.
I've seen some of them. You have shared them.
I decided that for myself.
Oh,
Entirely
that
independently. Nobody made me, and I did it to myself. It's okay, I get him back though. I am just as bad as he
right.
is.
Oh man, and that's
I
how
may
you
actually
work
be
is
worse.
because that humor.
I may
I'm
actually be
pretty
worse.
sure you are.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Jayce.
Just knowing you, I assumed that.
You're not wrong, but also shut up.
I mean, you're right, but hey.
You're right, but why you gotta be so loud about it? No, I love that that is how romance has come about. So I kind of like want to pull back into some of the conversation about the how you write. And like you really dig into author productivity and obviously you're very prolific even if you're taking a chance to actually breathe and be a human being for once, which I'm deeply proud of you for. Um because I watched you when you were doing that like a book a month thing and I was like, she ain't gonna live. Uh
Yeah,
yeah, it's just
yeah.
off into the sunset like dang son, but also I'm impressed, but also So, like, what do you have for recommendations for people who would like to be able to be more productive with their writing and accomplish more just for themselves, not necessarily like unrealistic goals, but like somebody who's
Mhm.
just can't quite get where they're going.
Well, I always start with there's usually a reason that you aren't producing work. That reason could be physical. It may mean that you need accommodations. You need to recognize that the way you're doing it is not working, that you might need more quiet. For me, I have to have the headphones. I cannot
Mm-hmm.
deal with noise and things like that. So once you deal with those things, again, there's usually a reason. For me, I have to know where my story is going. I can't write out of order. I have to write in order, which means I have to know what that next scene is.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, understanding how my story is put together is the number one thing. So before I ever start, I sit down. What are my characters? What are they after? What's keeping them from it? What is the flaw that they need to overcome to get there? And what is my ending going to be?
Mm-hmm.
Once I know those things, I'm able to work towards that. Because I find a lot of times when people are really struggling, sometimes it's because they don't know what's coming next in their story. And I find a lot of it is also this fear of not doing it right. There's this
Mm-hmm.
fear that there is one perfect idea, that there's one specific way that this book has to go. If it doesn't go that way, I am a failure as an author and everyone's going to know it. And I've experienced that sense that you have one thing that you're going to have to do it right. And
Yep.
when you have that fear, it becomes really hard to do anything because it's easier to not write and then have this idea that, well, I could be a writer, but I just haven't done it yet,
Yep.
because that's easier than thinking I tried and then I failed. And so the thing I like to tell writers and remind them is You are so much more than just one idea.
Mhm.
This idea that you're going to have this one magnificent book that's going to be absolutely amazing, that holds them back because they go, well, I'm not ready to do that one. No, no, you have so many more than just that one idea. You are bigger than that
Yep.
one book. So write it, and if it's not amazing, I have books that do terribly. I have terrible fan fiction that I still put up. There's so many things that I'm more than that one story. I'm
Mhm.
more than that one idea. And so if you remind yourself that you have more stories, I think it comes more easily. You're less
Yep.
afraid of, I'm going to write this thing and it's going to be bad and that's going to mean I'm bad. That means
Yep.
I'm not a good writer. Instead of realizing that's one book. I
Mhm.
don't think we said specifically, I have over 40 books out. Some of
Yep.
them are good, some of them are iffy, some of them are just, I've learned a lot in the time I've been writing. And that's the way it goes. And you just keep
Mhm.
moving because you're going to come up with more ideas. So don't think that there's only one way. I could have written any of those books a different way, and that's okay. There
Mhm.
is no perfect. There is
Yep.
no nothing you have to aim for like that.
Yeah, like I have a trilogy in fact that I have written and rewritten like 6 times, and I'm still not ready to release that one yet because it's just not there. But I have an urban fantasy series and nonfiction books and so on, and those
That are
are,
amazing.
thank you,
Mhm.
that are out there. And but that first book that I was like, man, I need to make this a novel. It isn't the one that's out published yet. I've written it like 3 times. The world building is trash. I need to work on that. And the story is great. The characters are phenomenal. The world building is garbage. I need to fix it. And I haven't been in the high fantasy space. And I've written cyberpunk novels that have never seen the light of day. I like them. I'm going to go back and work on them. There's another trilogy that I have not finished. But you're correct that you're more than one book because like I don't know, there are very few authors who only have one book, and a
And
lot
I
of the
think
time the
most
people go ahead.
Oh, I agree, and I think a lot of times when they do just have one, you'll often see them struggling with that and wanting to write different things. And I think it's
Mm-hmm.
almost detrimental if you have one and it does super well because it increases that fear of, can I do it again?
Yep.
Can I manage this a second time? And
Right. It's the fear of now I have to live up to this idea of myself when maybe you just got lucky and published the right book at the right moment.
oh, I always say that that's one of the reasons that my Omegaverse did as well as it did was I happened to jump on that bandwagon when there weren't as many authors doing, especially reverse harem ones. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't as big of a thing. Now, 6 years later, the market is far more saturated. It's
Mm-hmm.
much more difficult to make a name in it now than it was when I did it six
Yep.
years ago. Luck is a huge part of success. And it doesn't mean that you don't have to work. It doesn't
Right.
say that, if you're successful, it's all luck. It just means that plays a big part
Mm-hmm.
in being able to be successful. And I know a
Yes, it
lot of
does.
times we don't always like saying that because we like to be like, it's all me. I'm just fantastic. Um,
I mean, you are
just really
fantastic, but
amazing.
I can confirm this.
Yeah, of course, obviously. But I think that, luck, I always tell people, like, even just getting an acceptance from a publisher, if your book happens to name the main character Chris and the editor that's reading it was just dumped by this asshole named Chris with the same eye color, you
Yep.
might be getting a no for no
Mm-hmm.
good reason that has anything to do with your story or with how good it is or anything else.
Yep.
Like, it is so subjective. You just happen to get in front of the right person at the right
Mm-hmm.
time,
Yep.
and a lot of it is luck. You still have to work hard and everything, but a lot of what
Yep.
comes out of it is being in the right place at the right time.
That's absolutely true. And I think setting those realistic expectations when we are writing our books can help. Because it can help delete some of that fear. Because if, not saying that, luck is something that we should resent not having, but understanding that there's no small degree of our career that has to do with luck, and it's not all just about whether or not your book is good. It's sometimes about whether the right person saw it, or whether or not it's, you marketed it correctly if you're an indie author. Like, my books are, so far as I've been told by everybody, my books are really good. They don't sell super well because I'm not marketing the bejeebus out of them, because I don't have the, no. I
Uh,
should, but I don't. And
I completely get that.
right, but it isn't about whether or not my books are good quality, because they are. And I can say that, comfortably and confidently. I haven't had the lucky break that somebody discovered it and shared it with their, Oprah hasn't read it yet, and, hasn't shared it with her reading list, so obviously I'm not famous yet for that. But that's okay. I wrote my books because I want to write good books that mean something to the people who read them. And I don't really have that expectation of I need to be the biggest author on the block. It's removing that kind of takes some of the pressure off, which makes it easier to be like, okay, this book doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be a story.
Exactly.
Like,
It needs to say what you want it to say,
mm-hmm,
to have that conversation that you want to have with the reader. So,
yep,
you get your viewpoint out there. And, a lot of it is not just even pure luck in terms of being at the right place. I know authors that are amazing and their work is amazing, but it may not be on trend right now. And
yep,
that's okay. Trends come and go.
right,
And some authors, I've seen them try and chase trends, and then that never goes well. I always laugh and, think about this guy that I was talking to, and I said, I'm a writer. I write romance. And he's like, oh, romance. And he's like, I should write romance. It's so easy. I could be a millionaire. And of course that didn't happen.
no, no, it didn't.
And no, no, it definitely he immediately started going, I'm gonna write it, but it's not gonna have a happy ending because that's boring. And it's also not gonna really focus on the female character at all because women are boring to write. And like by the time he finished, it was like a action story of some
Like,
sort.
you do you, bro.
Right, and that's the thing is chasing trends does not always work either. You have to kind of
Mm-hmm,
know what you're wanting to do. So that's why I
yep,
always say, at the end of the day, it's more important to write something that you are passionate about,
yep,
and then you'll find the audience instead of
mm-hmm.
trying to chase where is the big audience going to be.
Well,
Because if you're not passionate,
right? Well, tying this back into AO3, right? Like, right back into there.
yeah,
Like, the reality is, if you write something, you will have people who discover that because they're like, "Ooh, I really like this thing and these characters and this type of writing, this tag," and people will just find it. So anything you write, as evidenced by AO3, you will be able to find people who are into it. Even like, and not just smut, like other things. Like, you will find there's an audience out there for your writing. There's definitely an
I
audience
love
out
the
there
way
for the
you
smut.
said that. It was like, you're like, not just smut, other things. I mean, I'm sure there are other things than
I'm sure
smut
there's things that aren't
somewhere,
smut, but I certainly can't think of them right now. It's not like I don't
right?
write
They
them.
must exist.
They must exist. One day
Somewhere.
scientists will discover an alternative to smut on AO3, but today is not that
Uh,
day.
and it won't be tomorrow either, let
No,
me tell
probably
you.
not. Probably one of those
And that's
mysteries in the mists of time. But
one of the things I love about fan fiction and why I'm such a big fan of it is I didn't write for quite a few years prior to me starting with fan fiction. And it's because I just felt completely stagnant, felt like nobody really was going to want to read my
mm-hmm.
work. I didn't enjoy it. And it was from starting to publish on AO3 that I realized people wanted to read what I was writing, people enjoyed it. I had the ability to make readers happy because so
Yep.
long I had focused completely on critique, which is great, but
Mm-hmm.
it tears it apart. And you never really get the sense that anybody enjoys it. You just see the
Yeah.
negatives. And it
Mm-hmm.
was through writing fan fiction that I kind of re-sparked that joy and went,
Yeah.
I like writing and people enjoy it. And that's what got me to write my first alphas book and submit it was I was writing fan fiction and going, I think I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's so important. It's an ability to write something that's strictly for the joy of it. You're not able to monetize it. You can't turn
Nope.
it into a career, but you just do it because you love it. And I think that's something that's absolutely amazing.
The experience of sharing something you love with an audience who also loves the thing you love is magic. Even if there's no money involved, and sometimes especially when there's no money involved, it's and it's such a fertile place to be able to try things. Because I mean, on AO3, if I write something nobody likes, the worst thing that happens is people are like, and I delete it. Like that's the worst possible thing that could happen to me is I delete something on AO3 and get angry comments about it, and that's
I get
unlikely.
angry yeah. If I wrote, like, things that didn't have smut, I would get angry comments. It would
Okay,
be
well,
from my friends on there. They were
that's
like,
fair.
"What the hell? Why do they still have their pants on?" They're like, "What
Ah!
happened to you? You've changed."
And I think we can I think we'll wrap up the podcast here with why are they still wearing pants? I think that's going to be the takeaway
That's
that everybody
it.
takes home is like, why are your characters still wearing pants? They shouldn't be.
You should ask them that every scene. Why are they wearing pants? Why? What's the point?
You know, it's the big questions that I come to you for.
The questions, not the answers.
Never the answers, the questions. Well, thank you so much. This has been a joy. Everybody, I hope you are safe out there. Have a great week. And Jace's wonderful books will be down in the show notes. You'll be able to find her stuff. She's a delight, and you should definitely follow her. She is a trip. She really is.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and have a great week.